And joining us today in our Book Talk segment, great to welcome a woman who's written another one of a great series of books featuring Dorothy Parker. This one's called Dorothy Parker Drank Here. This is a novel, but it's kind of based on a real-life person. We'll find out about it. We're joined today by the author, Ellen Meister, who's up in Long Island, my former hometown area, and she joined us by telephone. And Ellen, good to talk with you today. How are you?
I'm fantastic. Thanks for having me.
I know you've had a rough winter up there. That's why I'm down here.
It's been kind of brutal, I have to admit.
Yeah, but it's a great part of the world up there, just outside New York City, where you are. And I guess Dorothy Parker, the character in the book, who was a real person, based her whole life up there, right? She was part of the Algonquin Round Table, a great wit, a writer. So interesting person to write a novel about.
Yeah, she's definitely a New Yorker, although something that a lot of people don't realize is that even though her family was from New York City, they were summering in New Jersey when she was born. So she didn't get to be born in New York, but close enough.
Yeah, and a lot of people may not be quite aware of who she was. I guess early 1900s or around the 20s or 30s, was that her heyday?
Right, so she was really known for being a wit and a member of a group of wits in the 1920s called the Algonquin Round Table. So these were a group of writers and other artists who met daily for lunch for about a 10-year period. And they were famous for their bon mots. They were quoted in the newspapers, so they became a very celebrated group. Dorothy Parker, at the time, at the beginning, was a theater critic for Vanity Fair magazine. And she was also a poet. She was a short story writer. She was an essayist. So over the years, her writing became very well known in a variety of areas. And she's always been a tremendous hero of mine. She was utterly audacious, and she captured me from the time I was a young teenager. And so when I got the idea to resurrect her as a character in a novel, I just knew it was something I had to go ahead with.
She was kind of the Twitter of her time, right?
Yeah, I mean, she was snarky before snarky was a thing. Absolutely.
But, I mean, putting out quotes like that, there was no quotes on Twitter then, but I mean, today that's probably what you would see people like her. They do that, put out the little punchy quotes, right?
I think you're right about that.
And what made her what made her stand out? I guess she was just one of the few women among in a boys' club, right?
Well, not just that she was one of the few women, but of all the people, she probably had the sharpest tongue. Mm-hmm. Alexander Wolcott, another theater critic of the day, said that she was a combination of Little Nell and Lady Macbeth. And the audacious and bawdy Tallulah Bankhead called Dorothy Parker the mistress of the verbal hand grenade. So, she really could turn a phrase. She really had a very, very sharp tongue. And what I admire about her, besides all of that, besides how incredibly witty and audacious she was, you can still read her verse and her essays today, and it's as funny and fresh now as it was in the 1920s and 30s. I think it's utterly astounding. There aren't that many people. There aren't that many writers who you could read this many years later and have it feel not nostalgic, but utterly fresh. And there's just a special kind of genius in that, and I've always admired her. And the more I study her and write about her and get to know her, the more I admire her.
Yeah, it was one of those eras, 20s through maybe the 50s, maybe even a little bit later than that, where people knew writers. They've not necessarily been on TV that much, occasionally, I guess, on the talk shows, but you knew them pretty much just from their writing, right?
I think writers did have more celebrity back then. I think you're absolutely right. And I think the country, people loved to quote them. Everybody appreciated the great wit of the Algonquin Round Table. And they really were celebrities in their day. And an interesting tidbit, when Dorothy Parker really did become the toast of the town, when she was an absolutely audacious and outspoken theater critic for Vanity Fair, she was only 24 years old. Oh. So that's why I say the more I learn and the more I uncover, the more impressed I am.
Now, is it the second in the Dorothy Parker novels?
Yeah, so let me just go back and explain a little bit about that. So a couple years ago, I wrote a novel called Farewell, Dorothy Parker, and that was the one where I just got this idea to pay homage, really, to one of my greatest literary heroes, Dorothy Parker. And my conceit was not to write a historical fiction novel, but take Dorothy Parker and find a way to bring her to life in a contemporary setting. So it's kind of a ghost story, although there's nothing... Let me put it this way. I don't emphasize the ghost and the paranormal aspect of it. What I was trying to do was create a story that felt real and grounded with this sort of magical realism element. But the idea really was to be able to have Dorothy Parker interact with modern people and interact with the modern world so we could get her take on it. So I got that idea. I wrote that book, and I had absolutely no intention of writing another book. So without giving any spoilers away, when I ended that book, I really did not leave it open for any follow-up. But as I was working on my next novel and toying with an idea, I just felt like that I wasn't finished with Dorothy Parker as a character. I felt like I had more to write. And so I started toying with the idea of a prequel. And the more I worked on it, the more excited I became about the ideas I had for Dorothy Parker Drank Here. And so that did become my next book. So now the book that was just released is Dorothy Parker Drank Here, and I'm incredibly excited about it.
One of the great things about novels, you can make it up. So
That's right. Right. I do research because I want to pay responsible tribute to her. One of the things that's important to me is not just to get across her wit, but also to let people know who she was in all her complexity, because Dorothy Parker was somebody who had a lot of pain, so there were a lot of layers to her, and I think a lot of her wit did come from pain, which you can probably see when you hear some of her quotes.
Right.
So I wanted to get that across, but I also wanted to get across another side of her that a lot of people don't know and don't see, which is that she had a big, generous heart, and that she cared a lot about social causes. She cared a lot about human rights. She cared a lot about civil rights, and she dedicated herself to a lot of these causes. So when I wrote the book, it was very important to me to write something that was entertaining, that would grip readers, that was a story that could excite, that had characters, not just Dorothy Parker, but other characters that would engage the reader, but also to really pay responsible tribute to her and get across who she was in all her complexity.
When you write the book and you're doing the dialogue, I get, obviously, as a big fan of hers, you probably appreciate all of her wit. Do you find yourself kind of thinking maybe like her more when you write her dialogue? That must have been kind of interesting for you.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you have to. You have to sort of climb inside your characters and think the way they think and put yourself in the scene and decide how that character would react to that scene. With Dorothy Parker, of course, it was vitally important for me to capture her distinctive voice. So how did I do that? I, of course, besides the research that I mentioned before, reading her biographies and biographies of other people from the Algonquin Round Table, rereading all of her writing, which, of course, I'd done in the past, but I wanted to get her voice in my head. So rereading her verse, rereading her short stories, and most in particular, her nonfiction, her essays, her reviews, her letters, places where her natural voice really came out, so I could have that all in my head and hear how she would react in certain situations. And so that's what I did. And then, of course, because she was so economical and so sharp and so crisp, I had to go back and edit. And I came to appreciate her even more because her language was so spare and so perfect. So, yeah, like I said, my appreciation for her only grows.
Yeah, great character, a real person, but a great character nonetheless. And this book tells a fictionalized story, but as she would perhaps have lived if she was alive today. Dorothy Parker Drank Here is the name of the book. We've been talking with Ellen Meister, the author, today. And Ellen, I know the book just came out. You want to give out a website and get a hold of you with the book?
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, thanks. So the website is ellenmeister.com. It's ELLENMEISTER.com. And there's lots of information. If people want to find out more about the book, order the book, or even find me on Facebook. I run a Dorothy Parker page on Facebook, and that's a lot of fun, too. So, yeah, I'm pretty findable online.
Great. And we also have a place on our website. People can order the book as well. And Ellen, pleasure to talk to you. Always great to talk to somebody from Long Island. But good luck with the book, and hopefully we can talk to you when the next one comes out.
Much Much appreciated. Thanks for having me.
If you'd like to order the book we're talking about, please go to DougMilesMedia.com and enter the author's name in the Amazon search box. Thank you for listening. Please come back soon for more conversations here at DougMilesMedia.com. This has been a presentation of Doug Miles Media, all rights reserved. You can listen to or download previous programs at iTunes, Stitcher.com, or Doug Miles Media.